I could simply say, I don't know, we'll do name, and we'll say that the type for name is a varchar that can hold up to 15 characters. I'm going to place a comma in here so that I can now add another field, and we'll say, I don't know, age. And we'll say age. What type do you think age would be?
Int. Integer.
Int sounds good to me. So we'll just go ahead and come in here and type int. And I think that's good enough just for a basic example. So we'll go ahead and close the parenthesis and give it a terminator. And what we have right here is create table space, and we have buzz underscore test. This will be my table name that is going to be created and placed inside the BuzzDB database. And inside this, we're going to have a field that is called name, and it is a varchar that can hold up to 15 characters, and we're going to have a field called age, and it holds integer values. So I'll go ahead and press enter. Okay, so now what I can do is go ahead and type in show tables, and you'll see that we have one table available to use inside BuzzDB. Okay, you can see up here it says tables in BuzzDB, Buzz Test. Now, one of the things that you will find very useful is the ability to actually go back in later and get a table described back to you. In other words, let's say it is a lengthy table that has maybe 20 some odd fields in it, and you don't remember how many characters a particular field had, etc. You can come back into a particular database and simply say describe, and then give it the actual table name. So we can say buzz underscore test, terminator, hit enter, and it will tell us that fields, we have name, its type is a varchar 15. Does it allow nulls? Yes. Is there a key on it? There is no key. Default value is null, and any extra information. And basically, you'll get a listing of all the fields that you have and all of this additional information. And we're going to start getting into nulls, keys, etc. A lot heavier in the next VTM. Again, this is just a very basic introduction to working with tables. Okay, so is this just pretty simple? Anything you want to add to this here, Logan?
Not really.
Now, with this type of a little table that we've created, I know in the next lesson we're going to take a look at actually putting some data inside it, because we're not actually storing any data yet, right?
Right.
I mean, we've just set it up so that we can start plopping some data in there. If I had, let's say, one record that said John and the age was 5, and I turned around again and inserted another record that had the name as John and the same age again, that would be totally fine with this database, right?
Right.
And this is something that, especially when working with relational databases, this is something that's not good, right?
No.
We usually don't want to have repeat records. We're not going to start getting into relational database layout, design, and exactly how it works until the next couple of VTMs on down. We start getting into joining tables and talking about one-to-many relationships, etc. But I just wanted to say this because usually you're going to want to do something when you're creating your table so that you don't have duplicate records that appear inside that table. And this is kind of where the primary key comes in, right?
Yes.
This is where we can prevent this from happening. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to show you one other thing before we create a new table that's going to make use of this primary key. And that is, I want to go ahead and drop this or kill out this table right here. So to do that, it's just like we saw with the database earlier. To kill it out, we just simply said drop database in the name. It's the exact same way here, where we can just simply come in here and say drop table this time, though, and then specify the table's name. Buzz, yes?
Once you drop it, you can't get it back, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Test, and
forever.
There we go. And now, again, if I come back in here and say show tables, it's an empty set. There are no tables to be displayed right here. So let's go ahead and create one now that's a little bit more, I guess, realistic. We'll just call it guests for storing guest book information, since the next VTM is going to concentrate on making a kind of nice guest book. So we'll come in here again. It's going to be create table, and we'll call it guests. And again, basically those three things are going to be expected: to create the table and the name of the table, open parenthesis. And now what I want to do is I'm going to create a field that's called auto ID, and it is going to be an int. And we can take this int and we can make it unsigned, can't we?
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about what unsigned means?
Okay. When you create an integer, a default integer has a length of storing 10 digits and a sign. Sign meaning you could have negative numbers. Now an unsigned it's one digit less, so only 10 digits and only 0 and positive numbers.
Okay.
You can't have a sign, therefore you can't have negative numbers.
Gotcha. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting up this auto ID thing, even though that's not going to happen anyway, so we're going to let auto incrementing take care of it. I just thought I would throw it in there real quick just to point that out. So we've got unsigned. Now what I want to do is come in here and set up a special parameter called auto increment. Want to tell us about that?
What that'll do is instead of specifying a value, every time, say, we put some data into this table, now instead of actually putting our own data into auto ID, we just leave it blank, basically. We put a null into it, and auto increment will take whatever value is in that and add 1 to it.
Okay.
So it'll start off at nothing or 0, and then it'll keep adding. So we add a record, that record gets set to 1, add another record, and that record gets set to 2.
Okay, sounds good. And we'll go ahead and we'll set this field as the primary key. And we're setting this as a primary key so that we make sure that the auto ID right here field does not have the same value entered in there twice, ever. That's impossible. You'll get an error if you actually try to do that. So what I wanted to do is just to have a whole bunch of information here to show you that you can get a little bit more sophisticated when creating a simple field other than just saying name varchar 15. Okay, so we've got a little bit more information happening here. So we've got that set as the primary key. Now what I want to do, let's go ahead and now create first name. It just kind of wrapped around there. First name, and this is going to be type varchar. We're going to say that first name we can store 15 characters, comma. Now let's go ahead and do last name. And again, it's going to be varchar, 15 characters. I'm going to do, let's say we wanted to get the person's age. And again, it'll be an int. Now, let's go ahead and say perhaps I wanted to grab comments from the person as well. So we could say comments. And we would make this text because...
Right, they might type a whole paragraph of text, maybe give their life story if they wanted to.
That'd be scary. So we'll go ahead and place that in there. And then let's find out when the person actually entered this information, so we can go ahead and type in perhaps date entered. And we'll make this just a simple date type. And we'll go ahead and close off our parentheses and put a terminator there at the end. And so what we're looking at doing right here is creating a table called guests inside BuzzDB. It's going to have a field called auto ID. It's going to be it'll contain an unsigned integer that will auto increment, and it will also be the primary key so that we cannot have duplicate data being stored in this particular field. Then we've got comma. The next field is going to be first underscore name. It'll be a varchar up to 15 characters. Next field will be last underscore name, varchar up to 15 characters. Then we'll store the age, which will be an integer type value. Then we'll have comments, which will be text. Then we'll have date entered, which is date. Okay? So we'll go ahead and press enter. And now what we need to do is come in and show our tables. You see guest is now available. And as I showed you guys before, I just want to show it to you again. Describe guests. And there's a description of the actual guests database. So you can see the structure of it. Yeah, much more lengthy than what we had just a second ago. So basically, this is all I wanted to cover in this section right here. I know it's relatively simple, about 20 minutes long. Just get you up and running with creating basic tables. We will be coming back to the creation of tables many, many times as our tables will become more and more sophisticated. In the next section, we're going to use guests to actually insert some data into it, see how we can modify that data, as well as delete the data back out. So that's pretty much everything for this section here.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, guys.